Okay, so we're going to go over blood. We're going to start with composition. When you're looking at the hematocrit, in other words, this means like the percentage of amount of blood and after it's been put into a centrifuge. Heavy fluids will be at the bottom, lighter on top. I'll show you that in a minute. But basically, you have 45% of your blood is cells and 55% is plasma. And this is what that looks like. So 55% would be plasma, 45 or so would be the cells, which is like the white blood cells. Of that percentage, white blood cells, only about 5 of it, and the rest is red blood cells. This is an example of anemia. So that means they have a depressed amount percentage of red blood cells, and polycythemia would be a high percentage of red blood cells. So you can kind of see the difference there. Okay, so hematopoiesis, remembering that that's the formation of blood cells. There's some bone marrow here. Most of your red blood cells is produced in the red bone marrow. Your yellow bone marrow is mostly used for adipose storage. It's yellow because it's made up of adipose. But if for some reason you can't produce it, then a little bit will come from here. Phagocytosis is old blood cells are destroyed by the liver and the spleen. Okay. So just looking at your white blood cells, if you remember, you have agranulocytes and granulocytes. Your agranulocytes were lymphocytes and monocytes. Your lymphocytes is what makes your T cells, B cells, and natural killer cells, and your antibodies. Your granulocytes, you have basophil, neutrophil, and eosinophil. Okay, so now we're going to get into hemostasis. So hemostasis is when you are bleeding and the bleeding needs to stop. So your blood vessel breaks, either you get cut, something occurs in which that breaks, and now the defensive reaction will occur where the blood volume will, I guess, reduce by and not being able to have you like quote unquote bleed out. Okay, so step 1 is vascular spasm. So there's smooth muscle inside of your vessel, and that smooth muscle is going to constrict, and that's going to momentarily reduce blood loss for about 20 to 30 minutes. So the artery will, in the inside of the smooth muscle, will like tighten up so that you can't bleed. Next is called aggregation. Your platelets will now come to play. Your platelets release a chemical, and they will like make like basically like its own little band-aid. And the last is coagulation. So now you have blood clotting. So basically you have a fibrin form, that mesh that traps red blood cells in that platelets, and it forms a clot. Thrombin is the enzyme, and it catalyzes the clot. So this is what it looks like. So you can see the aggregation occurring. So platelets are coming in, and the fibrin catching it and making its little clot there. These are all the 3 steps. So vasoconstriction, you can see the smooth muscle coming in. Platelet aggregation, so the platelets making like a temporary like plug there. And then you'll have your fibrin catching all the cells to make a clot. Okay, so next thing is blood groups and transfusion. So just remember, antigen is what's on the outside of a red blood cell. It's what determines your blood type. So you'll either have A antigens, makes you type A, B antigens make you B, A and B, or nothing at all, and that would be type O. Antibodies are attracted to the opposite antigen. It's not attracted to the same because otherwise it would attack itself. So if you're blood type A, you would have B antibodies that would attack B antigens, which we'll get into that in a minute. So agglutination is what occurs. So you have your antibody, it will be attracted to the antibody which is opposite of your blood type. And let's say you get the wrong blood type in your system, it'd be attracted to it for agglutination. What happens? Transfusion occurs and they give the wrong blood type. Agglutination would happen. Antibodies would come and just attach. Clumping or lysing would occur. Your phagocytes, neutrophil and monocytes, would come and destroy it, and the hemoglobin is also released into the bloodstream. And then that hemoglobin that's all alone will get into your kidneys and cause renal kidney failure. Other things, you can also have like more moderate things like chills, fever, things like that, but mostly like the worst that can happen is kidney failure. Okay, so let's get into blood typing then. So blood type A, you have A antigens. Okay, so you can see it there, A antigens. But you're born with the opposite antibodies. So you have B anti-B. So you have B antibodies. So that means if the B blood is put into your system, it will be attached to it, agglutinating. So if you see clots, if you guys remember from the lab, if you see clots, that means that's your blood type because the antibody was attracted to it. blood type B has B antigens, but you're born with A antibodies, and it would be attracted to A antigen. So if this blood was put in your system, it would agglutinate with it. A and B has both antigens, so you don't have any antibodies. You would recognize everything as yourself, so this is the universal recipient. And O would both have A and B antibodies, but they are the universal donor because they can go into this person, there's no antibodies, like this antibody wouldn't recognize it, this antibody wouldn't recognize it. So you can give it to any blood type A, B, or AB. Okay, so don't forget about RH. So not only do you have a blood type, but you also have RH positive or RH negative. If you're RH positive, that means you have the antigen. If you're RH negative, that means you don't. So you have O negative would have neither. A negative. So if you're negative, you do not have it. So you can see A negative doesn't have RH, doesn't have RH, doesn't have RH. It just has the A, B antigen. If you're positive, you have your blood type and that antigen, RH. So this, if you can see here, I love this diagram because you can really see it. O positive doesn't have A or B, but it does have RH. A positive has A and RH. B positive has B and RH. AB positive has A, B, and RH. So you can see that these cells and what antigens they have. So the only thing that can occur is if a pregnant person who is negative has a baby who's positive. The first baby, you're fine, but the second baby, you would have to get RhoGAM. And after the first baby is delivered, they give you RhoGAM, and then otherwise the mother would attack the baby. Okay, so that's it for blood. You guys will practice now, and hopefully that was helpful.